Good morning, Facebook land. I'm sorry it is not Brad Bertelli who is here with you today, but it is me, Jill Miranda Baker, the Executive Director of Florida Keys History and Discovery Center in Islamorada on a very, very rainy, much needed rain, stormy kind of day. I'm going to be talking to you about our traveling exhibit on display here at the Discovery Center called On Fly in the Salt, an American saltwater fly fishing from the surf to the flats. This one is a little bit personal to me. I am married to Captain Dwayne Baker. He is a longtime fly fishing guide, and he introduced me to the world of fly fishing when we first met, about 28 years ago. So I have a little bit of knowledge about it, not much, but I'm going to do my best to explain this exhibit. This exhibit is on loan from the prestigious American Museum of Fly Fishing in Vermont. It came to us this past November and was supposed to leave in March, but it didn't have another place to go, and we wanted to keep it because so many people had a lot of interest in it. And so it will be here through the end of the year, maybe a little bit longer, depending on their schedule. This exhibit was created by the museum because they didn't have anything specific to fly fishing in salt water. So this one, while it is very Keys centric, it does talk a little bit about how fly fishing developed and the different areas in which it did. So I'm going to show you some of the close-ups of the exhibit. Fly fishing actually got its start way back in 1764 is the earliest account of fly fishing, and in the West Florida colony. So there's some really cool documents, pictures of documents, and some super old books. A book from 1833 about the natural history of the fishes of Massachusetts, where he describes Cape Cod South Shore fishing for salters and fly fishing for striped bass in the same area. There's another book in 1849 that discusses the use of Atlantic salmon flies for striped bass. Moving along, it goes more into the seminal book, a book of Tarpon is published. That's this book right here. It is a full-blown text along with his son's astonishing action photographs about their tarpon adventures. It's really cool that that book is here. And those adventures were around the West Coast to the Upper Keys. And then it goes into Flagler's Railroad, and again, as you may know from downstairs, we do have Legends of the Line, and that time frame in Flagler's Railroad did help develop the Keys as a fishing destination. 1930 was the beginning of the Islamorada Fishing Guides Association, and that is now called the Florida Keys Fishing Guides Association, of which my husband was the Commodore for about 4 years and is still a member. We move into the 40s when the Orvis Company came about and started creating rods. The Orvis Company is still going strong. Many, many years later, my husband is one of the few Orvis endorsed fishing guides in the Florida Keys. So I'm familiar with Orvis. I'm going to talk a little bit about the ladies of fishing, fly fishing. Many of them got their start because their husbands got interested in them. This here shows a picture of Joan Wolf, who has been a client of my husband's, and she is probably the premier fly fishing angler, Joan Wolf. She and her husband started a fly fishing school in upstate New York many years ago. And here we have the pioneers, Mary Orvis Marbury, Kay Brawny, and then the Bonefish Bonnie, who we've talked about as part of our Legends of the Line exhibit. And the three sisters got into fly fishing and guiding during war when there was the men weren't here to be able to do that, so they started becoming guides, and they all married into the fly fishing families as well. And then I'm going to go over to the other side. This part of the exhibit is specific to women in saltwater fly fishing. And three women in particular I want to talk about is Joan Wolf, and she is best known as the First Lady of Fly Fishing, and I've had the honor of knowing her. She's one of the kindest people I've ever met, and she's been a longtime client of my husband's. She doesn't fish as much. She is in her 80s, but she still fishes, and she still comes down to Islamorada every year. She taught my son, Mason, to fly fish when he was probably 5, 6 years old, and that was really cool having this legend teaching my son. I have some great pictures of memories of that. Nancy's Akon is another person who lives locally. She lives in Ocean Reef, and she actually worked at the Orvis Manhattan store, and she created a list of women interested in fly fishing and created a casting clinic, and then started into various sports shows. She has been a president of the International Women Fly Fishers, and she is part of the American Museum of Fly Fishing. When she started spending time in Ocean Reef and Key Largo, she created the group called Bonefish Bonnies, and they're a group of women interested in learning more about fishing. We had the pleasure of hosting the Bonefish Bonnies here at Keys History and Discovery Center back in January when things were still normal. And it was really neat to have Nancy here. We took a picture with her, and we did post it on our Facebook page a while back, sometime in January, early February. And she was pretty excited to see herself featured. She was very honored and humbled, and that was really cool to have her here. Another former local, Diana Rudolph. I met Diana through the many fishing tournaments that I attended, tournament dinners and awards dinners with my husband over the years. Diana doesn't live here anymore. She lives out west, but her mother still lives here in Islamorada, her mom Joyce. And Diana is just I've never seen anyone with so much passion, particularly a woman, for fishing and for fly fishing. I was always very interested in talking with her and learning about how she got into this. Her father introduced her to fly fishing, and after her father died, she was about ready to go to grad school, but she ended up doing more in the angling world. She worked at Florida Keys Outfitters with Sandy Moret for many years, and she was an instructor in the school. She won Women's World Invitational Tarpon tournaments, broke records, and she was the first woman to win the Don Holly Invitational Tarpon tournament against an all-male field. That is quite a significant accomplishment. Islamorada in particular is well known and well regarded for its tarpon tournaments, on fly tarpon tournaments, and it was very competitive. We had people like Andy Mill, the former Olympian, people that are dedicated to the sport of fishing, of fly fishing, competing, and it was a cool honor that in 2004 Diana won that tournament, and I'm sure it's something that makes her proud today. A little more about the exhibit goes into the various environmental challenges for fishing. It talks about the different technology as it developed, the rods and reels, and the different materials they use to engineer those rods and reels. And then finally, we have a variety of flies. My husband has his own fly tying setup desk in our home and has for many, many years. And I will tell you that some of the things that they use to tie flies smell funny because it's all animal feathers, real animal feathers, sometimes synthetic. But these are just different flies that have been developed over the years. We got Stu App, he is an Islamorada resident. He just turned 90 this week. He's been very instrumental in the fly tying and fly fishing world in Islamorada. And then we've got a few more over here. Dell's permit fly. Dell was a big time fisherman. There's a tournament named in his honor in Key West. And you just see there are different sizes for different species. The main species, of course, in Islamorada that you fly fish for are bonefish, tarpon, and permit. Permit being probably the one that's most elusive, and sometimes they're caught on a crab, but typically on a fly. And other things you'll see as part of this exhibit are the record catches dating from, on this side, 1981 to 2011. And on this side, the first bonefish that was recorded as a catch, 1939, with Captain Bill Smith, who caught an 8-pound bonefish in Isla Mirada. And then there's more record setters. We see a lot of Stu App's name up here. Lee Wolf was the husband of Joan Wolf. Stu Apt again, Treadbarda. It's a really great story. We hope that you have time when we go back to some sort of normalcy and get to open again, that you'll be able to come to Keys History and Discovery Center and check out this traveling exhibit from the American Museum of Fly Fishing, and also be able to take advantage of everything we have to offer downstairs. Tomorrow we have Field Trip Friday scheduled with Brad. Hopefully we will be able to do that outside. The weather is not expected to be good. We have an 80% chance of rain today and tomorrow. But tune in. We will still be, tune in, don't tune in, view in. Do something. Do something. Whether it's inside or outside. We'll do something. Check in with us at 10 o'clock Friday, and stay safe, stay dry for those of you who are getting all wet, and thanks for supporting Keys History and Discovery Center.